All right, welcome to the Free Your Shelf podcast. Very excited about today's episode. I have one of my favorite uncles. Listen, all of my uncles are one of my favorites because you guys are all great, man. I love each and every one of you. Um, and yeah, so it's always hard to pick a favorite. So you are all my favorite uncles. But this is my uncle from my mom's side, Jerry Jurado. All right, let's get into it. So this is a podcast. Let me explain to you. I think I explained to you a little bit before, but a podcast where I want I want listeners to listen to the podcast and find some inspiration in what they've heard for themselves to be like, man, I have so many things that I've always wanted to do. I'm interested in this and that. And for them to say, yeah, I'm gonna go do or find what I love to do and just do it because doing that for myself, finding doing the things that I love to do is such a freeing um, feeling that I wish I would like for others to feel that way. I feel like if we're all living in that feeling, this world would be a better place. But so that's part of what we do on this podcast. Others and part of it is sharing inspirational stories, which I think you're about to share one with us now, through experiences that have made you who you are today. Um, with that said, bear with me. There's a light I have here. I was just telling Theo Jerry that trying to keep this light stuck on my laptop is probably going to be challenging today.
You may have to lick the suction cups. Yeah.
There's like 10 chupones on that thing. I'm licking all of them. Anyways, all right. Jerry, I mean, tell me who you are. Tell me what you're famous for. What are you famous for? And not necessarily that you're famous, but what is it that you do that makes you you?
Yeah. So thank you, Cheito. As you mentioned, I'm Jerry Jurado. My real name is Gerardo Jurado. And in North America, they can't pronounce that. So I had to use my nickname as an alias, Jerry Jurado, which has a nice ring and tone. But I was going through the questions that you had sent, and a lot went through my mind to the point where I just read them, went through them, and put them down because I can't. I'm a spontaneous person. I can't, I can't plan it, and I work like that in my business. The times that I prepare for a meeting that I have to lead, it's when I strike out. When I just go out there and just do it, that's when it comes out the best. And what am I known for? That's a question that you can answer part of it. Um, but what I stand for is the person that influences other in a positive way. That what I share with others can have an impact of benefit to their being and or in their future. I want to think that I'm known for being a great dad, and there's no such thing. I don't believe that anybody could be a great dad, but you can be the best dad that you can and influence your sons and daughters to be the best people they can be, and to me that's a win, right? Um, and in my family setting with my siblings and my nieces and nephews, a lot of my nieces and nephews over the years have called me, Uncle Jerry, my favorite uncle, and for all the reasons that they call me that, I cherish and I'm honored when I hear that. As the son of my mother and father, I have to tell you that my purpose as a son to my mother and father was just to be the best son that I could, making them proud and loving them. And I truly believe that I've accomplished that. In my professional life, I have influenced a lot of people in many different ways, whether as a leader, whether as a colleague, as a mentor, as a coach. And, when I reflect back, that has been, a powerhouse of who I am and how I'm known in my industry. I believe that we have a cousin, Johnny, John. So we used to call him when he was a kid. And on one trip, I see him matured. I grew up in Hartford. My career started in Hartford. And I went from being a cashier all the way through being a store manager. And once upon a time, during a sad event, our uncle's passing, when I came across him, he stood back and he goes, "Jerry Gerardo, you're a legend. Everybody knows you. Everybody speaks about the influences you have had." And I was like taken aback by it. He's now in the supermarket industry, and he's worked with a lot of people that, evidently I coach, mentor, or trained and work with me or for me. And he heard a lot of stories, which were all true, right? My son Peter, having worked the Frito-Lay route, he's visiting stores where he's coming across people. When they see his last name, it's like, "Gerardo, I know that name."
Yeah.
"Hey, you must know my dad, Jerry Gerardo." "I know your dad." So, when you hear that, I don't think my purpose was to be great at that, but the interest I took in people made me that, and so I say, look at my, I've had my failures. I've had many failures. I've made some poor decisions. I should have made some decisions that would have put me in a better place, but I decided no, because that was going to be a negative impact on my family, and I could never do that. So, I hold the position of general manager. I've held higher positions, as high as director of operations, corporate operations. But this is where I like to be, because I love to be around people. This is a people business. Retail is a people business. And if you don't like people, get out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in my current job, working for Staples, I'm in my 15th store in almost 19 years.
Wow.
That's unheard of. We have general managers that have been with the company 25 years in the same store. And so, when I look at that, I need energy, and I can't be complacent. 2 years, 3 years in one location, I get close to people and you become complacent, so you're no longer effective. However, with Staples, I came on board. They recruited me, and I came on board to a store in Brattleboro, Vermont. And my second day on the job, my regional vice president shows up at the door. I just happened to know him from the supermarket industry, and he says, "Jerry, I wanted to see you again, but I got to tell you, you got 6 months, or we're going to close this store." I just left a great job. I took on this job, and I was just so that I just got a 6-month warning, right?
No pressure, no pressure.
No pressure. Well, 19 years, the store is still open today.
Wow.
So as the company saw what I could do, I was then asked to take on another project in Rutland, Vermont, and do the same thing. And then went to South Burlington, Vermont, and the story goes on, right? Fixed stores. But along the way, I mentored and coached a lot of people. As I recruited people, I always use this line: "Listen, I cannot make you rich on an hourly wage, but I can offer you an opportunity that this basic job can turn into a career. And I backtracked recently, and in 19 years, I have promoted individuals to either from an hourly associate to a supervisor, from a supervisor to an assistant manager, from an assistant manager to a general manager today, working effectively, assistant managers. And, you know, when they see me, it's almost like seeing a family member. And that I think that defines me the best. There were some I was involved in a leadership forum where we were coming up with ideas on how to mentor, young managers coming into the company, the industry. And so 10 of us sat around, and then we had 10 junior, just promoted general managers that came into the room. And, as we introduced ourselves, this young man, he's actually Puerto Rican. And he looks at me, he goes, "You're Jerry Jurado?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Man, you're a legend in this company." And kind of took me aback a little bit, and everybody's paying attention, right? And I asked him, why do you call me a legend? And he started telling me all the reasons, and I kind of started grinning, because you don't realize the influence you have in people when you take the time to show them a better way, to show them, that there is a way, there is a future in this. If you just pay attention and commit yourself to it and be a professional, right? So that's my business side. I think that I'm where I want to be. I'm going to retire in a few years, and I've met everything that I needed to meet in my career. Yes, I have some regrets, but that's that. As a family man, I wanted the respect that I think I've earned, but also I want everybody to be comfortable and to have fun around me. I'm a fun person. I like to make people laugh. I like to entertain people. I do that with my family. Kim, my fiance, she's shared times with us, and when she talks about it with her family members and things like that, she calls it unique. It's something so incredible. It's so great, and that's how I want to be known from my family. If I can sing a song and make people smile and laugh and sing along, I think that's something that puts me in a really good place. Yeah. For my sons, I want my sons and my daughters to be the best that they can be, to not cut themselves short, to make the decisions that impact their family, so make the right decisions in that sense, but to be good, honest human beings in this world, because we lack that. And I think that I instill in both example and in discipline how to be that. And I can go talking forever if you let me. So I don't know if that answers your question, Tato, but it's a lot to talk about, because I see myself not just in one person with many different hats. Yep. And that's what that is.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have to agree. Do you hear an echo?
I don't.
All right. But so let me tell you, and if you were to ask any of us, cousins, we also consider you a legend, and we don't know half the stuff of what you go through at work and in your career. But like, we've grown up. You've always been a great role model, I think. And so let me throw on another piece of who you are. You're not only a great dad, a great mentor, a great at what you do at work, but you've also been a great uncle, right? Great son, and throw that in there too, a great uncle, because for me, it's a lot about, you just get a feeling of the person that's in front of you. I'm a big energy person, right? You can feel the energy off of somebody, and I've been sensitive to that. So, but just being around you, that you exude, and the energy comes off of you as a confident person, as a person that knows things, right? Experience. For me, experience is the best teacher. You can go to school all day, all night, and you don't know shit unless you've experienced it. And I've always known you to have many experiences because you shared, like, you were in the military early on, and thank you for that, for your services. But you've always shared experiences with us that were like, oh, like, man, dude, you that was you've seen that, you've done that. But it goes with how you carry yourself, that you feel that way, and you feel that around you, where that has been a big part of our upbringing. Because I mean, like you said, our family's always together, and I agree, everyone says that, like, yo, your family is different, it's unique. And I agree, man. The and there's a lot of families out there that I'm like, man, you guys have a great family, right? But like, for me, it's like, yo, our family is great, man. It is, and unique, and it's so big, and everybody has a different story, that even though people have chosen their paths, right? um that no matter what their paths have taken them through, what they've been through, um when we're together, it's like a pot of just experiences, and still love each other no matter what, man.
Yeah.
There's some families that grudge over the smallest things, and I'm looking at them like weird, because like, how could you not talk to so and so for years because of what? Anyways, it's just, I'm grateful to have been in this family, because it shows me, my family has showed me how to love unconditionally.
Amen.
And that's the highest power of love, is to love unconditionally. And I mean, I'm not gonna go there yet, with spirituality and stuff, but that's God. It's that unconditional love. When we love each other without conditions, God is looking at us like, yes, you're getting me, you're understanding me, right? But yeah, so let me throw that in there. I've always considered you a legend, even when we were young, when I was younger, a long time ago. Um, but you're
Did
also
you
a great uncle. You're a
did
great
you
uncle.
did I happen to have the Uncle Jerry talk with you when you were a teenager?
Probably. It was a long time ago, so
I
when we got to,
the one that resounds the most was Eggie. I had that with Eggie Harry.
yeah,
Even my little brother Sammy
yeah.
went through that, and I took a lot of pride in doing that for all the right reasons. But I never judged,
Hmm.
and I always listened. And my feedback was always, you know, tough love is hard to handle. However, you will experience that in your future with your own kids when you have to exhibit tough love. And until then, you're not gonna understand why you're going through what you're going through with your parents. And I
Hmm.
always left it at that. And I've even had my sons. I know what you meant, Dad. I know what you meant, because I'm going through it right now, and it's not easy. It's tough. I want to say the right things. You can never, you can't. And one thing that I teach is don't meditate on it. Because if you're thinking, if my son asks me this is how I'm gonna respond, and that's wrong. You need to let it come, and the only way it's gonna come out right is to pay attention and listen. And then you have to do it with love and passion when you start speaking back, right?
That is huge. And that's something that I'm learning. And and it is, and a lot of things that I talk about and things that I believe in, it's they're not easy to do. I feel like when you sit and you think about it, it's like, yes, that's what you want to do. Like you would say, like you want to be a great dad. You want to be that if somebody comes to you, that you can help them as much as you can, right? And you're thinking that but I feel like what you're saying, it works better when you set that intention, right?
Mhm.
Okay, I want to help you as best way as I can, but you can't meditate any of that.
No.
You have to first listen or be able to hold that space for them to be comfortable enough for them to kind of find it
Yeah, absolutely. They,
with
they need to trust in saying truly what they want to say. And when you do, when you premeditate it, when you kind of stage it, it's not going to come out like that.
no.
The kindness and love that you should show your loved one won't reflect in that sense. So,
Yeah.
that's a big deal. But you mentioned the military. I think the military that mature me. Yeah, I got to tell you, when I was very shy when I was young. You don't know me this way, but I was so shy that if somebody was looking at me, that would freak me out. Why are they looking at me? What, my hair? I mean, what did I say? Like what's
Insecure.
and you get nervous like that. And I was the last one to raise my hand. I was the last one to speak. I was afraid to ask the question because it may have been a stupid question.
Yeah.
But then I met the United States Marine Corps, and let me tell you something. You're right. My posture, the way I walk, the way I hold myself, the confidence that I have, all came out of that. Not that I wasn't confident before that. I didn't exhibit it that way. I was very, very timid in that sense. And the Marine Corps, brought something out of me that I didn't even know I was capable. And it came to when I felt like giving up because boot camp in the Marine Corps was not easy.
Yeah.
But I had Jerry at the time. And all I picture was Jerry. I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this for Jerry.
Wow.
And then when I said, I used to think I'm not as good as others. And when I saw myself around 70 other recruits in boot camp going through the same thing I was going through, different nationalities, different upbringings, different backgrounds from different parts of the country, I said, there's nobody else in here that's any better than me.
Yeah.
I control how good I'm going to be at this. And I started changing my mentality about that. And let me tell you, it was a transformation for me, from being a timid, shy, kind of laid back individual to this go-getter.
Yeah.
I became a go-getter. My opinion mattered. It
Mhm.
counted, and I wanted to share. You can agree with it or not, but it mattered. And so I became a speaker. Some of the things that I've done outside of my career, because of my career, um, I was a guest speaker for the business program at Castleton um, State University in Vermont.
Mhm.
And essentially what it was, they would send me some of their students that were interested in going into retail with that background. And I would spend a week with them showing them what the things that I did. And they loved it. They thought, if I ever worked for a manager like you, I would never leave you, type of thing, right? So you're good. No, 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 I'm not conceited. You're good, but now you're really exhibiting it, right? Because you're showing, you're teaching.
Mhm.
And then at the end of the year, I would stand in front of the entire program and I would get pounded with questions, how to handle different situations and things like that. And I got to tell you, if I was 18 years old before I went to boot camp, I would not have been able to do that with my personality at that time. But because of my maturing and transformation from being timid and shy to being confident and aggressive, I'm a very aggressive business person.
Mhm.
That helped me, accomplish that. I didn't make money to do that. I just did it because I really loved it,
Yeah.
and I enjoyed sharing me with others. You know,
Yeah.
so yeah, a lot of that has to do with that. But that my time in the Marine Corps, I went through a lot. I did things that you don't even know I did.
Yeah.
I finally found someone that would listen to me in Kim,
Yeah.
that I can share some of the things that I did, because I had never opened it up like that, just let it out,
Mhm.
because my sons were not equipped to listen to some of that, and my prior spouses had no interest in it. So it's something that I kept within, but Kim has allowed me to really share a lot of that with it, and she really understands and enjoys hearing about it, because I have had in my career, in my time in the Marine Corps, a positive influence in who we are as Americans, right? And
Yeah.
our country and our freedom. So I
Yes.
take a lot of pride in that.
Yeah, definitely you should. Let me ask you, is there, first of all, I have two questions from that. Is there like a moment that you can recall that was like a that at that moment is like, I'm not going back to that timid kid? Or was that just like a gradual, you know?
Yeah, it became a gradual. It was in boot camp, and we're all standing around, and we're getting ready to go to IT, right? Individual ICT, individual combat training, where we're going to go in the field for 2 weeks and play war games. It's a boot camp, right? And we're all sitting there, we're getting the stories, you can't fail at this because this, that, and the other from the drill instructors. And we're all looking at each other, kind of anticipating when we get to that point, we can't fail, which was wrong, because it was a mental state that they put you through. But that's part of overcoming, the enemy, right? So I stood there and I saw myself struggle through with another 70 troops, and we all made it. We all made it. We helped each other. And that was my determination, that I can't be the passive person that I was.
Mm,
And there is no one in this world that can tell me that I can't do something and I'm not good enough, because I just proved it all,
absolutely.
going through this. That was my transformation. I've had many transformations in my life, but that was one that really put me, the person, ahead of what I was. And of course, the understanding that I didn't want to go back to that,
Yeah.
because I didn't like me then. To have that fear of others being better, to have that fear of somebody looking at me, and why. I just overcome that. When somebody's looking at me, after I left boot camp, all eyes were on us, walking through the airport in our dress blues,
Hmm.
and even people offering to buy us beers. Thank you for your service, and we just got in, and I enjoy that, as opposed to before I went to boot camp, that would scare me.
Yeah.
And so now, and since then, when somebody's looking at me, I go up to say, um, "Can I help you? I see you looking at me. I there's a reason for it, right?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And it puts a lot of people in an uncomfortable position when you question that. I do it at work all the time. We got a customer looking at me, "Sir, you're looking at me. Can I help you?" "Oh, no, no, no." And okay.
Yeah. But I bet you that guy's like the rest of the day, like, man, he caught me looking at him, and then like the way he asked, and and it goes with how you carry yourself. That impression, that dude's always gonna he's taking something from it, even if he didn't ask the question, even if nothing was answered. It was like, man, that was kind of like, oh, it's gonna stick with him, is what I'm saying. Eh,
Absolutely. But you develop that ability with time, with experience. Somebody's looking at me for something.
right.
But when I was 18, I would run the other way.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was shy. I was very shy.
So
But
yeah.
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that experience, like you actually stepped out of your shell in that experience that helped you step out of that shell. Like,
Yeah, Marine Corps cracked the shell and I came out. I was born.
yeah. But
you
again,
know.
and I agree that we go through so many transformations in life. And you touched on that earlier. Sometimes I think about my past, and there's some of them is like, damn, was that really me? Like that, it feels like a whole different life.
hmm
And like, man, I'm glad. I mean, yeah, I enjoyed it. It's made me who I am, but man, like why? Right? And that's part of those things that maybe you regret some of it. Um, but if you really think about it, it is part of who we are, and embracing that is where we came from. And I think that we place too many judgments on ourselves. Not everybody, but I mean, in being human, I've done it. We're raised in society with judgments. Like, there's a mindset of, depending on where you live, your family, all that there are expectations of, going to school, going to college. Some people don't have expectations of going to college. It's more like,
hmm
no, you're gonna get out of high school and go get a job because we need some help here, right?
Right.
But those are expectations that others place on you, that you grew up with, feeling like, I have to do this because, like, that I'm expected to do this, like I need to help. But it's not allowing you to just be, find who you are, find what you like to do, without somebody saying, oh, we need you to go to college, we need you to go to college, get a degree, get yourself a great job. um because yeah, it might be the best thing for you. You
hmm
don't understand that, right? It's like, all right, well, I mean, I'm going through the motions, I'm not finding any satisfaction from it. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that those journeys, those lives, your life's journey, a lot of times is there's judgments, and you act on this because you think you're supposed to, because it's if you don't, you're gonna be judged for it by society, judged by your
hmm
parents, your family. And ultimately we start judging ourselves, because now we're like, okay, well, am I supposed to be doing this? But I love to do this, but no, I have to do this. So now it's like, no, but if I do this, it's not right. Right? That judgment right there is like, we we sometimes take it and make it bigger than it is, where you're placing big judgments on you, like you're and you end up being too hard on yourself. Like, you get
Yeah.
to a point where, like, no, you know what, I'm gonna do this because I love doing this.
hmm
And you mentioned it earlier, like, there's some things that okay, well, I'm not getting paid for it, and I'm not doing it to get paid, but this is what I love to do. I love to speak, I love to touch others, I love to be able to say something that somebody's going to take with them, and it meant something a lot to them. And I'm at that point in my life right now where I'm like, yo, man, this is a great feeling. And
It
I'm
is, isn't it?
feeling, I'm stepping out of my shell. I'm stepping away from all those judgments. And people were probably looking at me like, oh, here we go, another podcast, and he's talking, and he's, whatever. And it's like, I don't care. Don't
hmm
listen to it.
Right.
But you see the smile on my face? I'm loving this. And it's a
hmm
great feeling. And I feel like that we should all live with that passion of whatever it is you love to do in that moment, and forget about what other people say, and don't place that judgment on yourself. Am I good? Am I bad? Am I right? Am I wrong? It's like, just be and enjoy that.
Yeah,
Anyways.
I agree. I agree with all of it. And some I wanted to make some decisions in my life that would have probably put me in a much um, in a better place. And I'm not going to say much better, but for all the right reasons.
Mhm.
And I turn away because it would have affected my family.
Mhm.
And I didn't want to do that. That took precedence over any standing that I could gain and gather. But it was a win-win situation. It just wasn't a win-win for the family.
Yeah.
So you deal with that. You always think back to it, what it could have been,
Hmm.
but you can't dwell on it. And you're right when you say you start judging, you start discriminating against yourself, in many different ways, because you don't know you shouldn't I, and I'm not supposed to be that, and all of a sudden you get into a position where you're second guessing yourself.
Yeah.
So you become weak. That weakens you, instead of saying, yeah, I want to do, yes,
Yeah.
let's go. That's the positive energy you're going to bring into it. But if you have doubt, you're never going to have that solid energy that's going to carry you through it, work or not. Sometimes positive energy, if it doesn't work, helps you out of it.
Yeah.
But negative on negative is gonna knock you down.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was gonna say something. Like that is allowing you to be fully in the moment and to bring everything into it. Um. Oh, here's what I was gonna say. There's a I have uh teachers. Everything in life for me is a learning experience, right? So I look at everything as teachers. I have spiritual guides. When you're praying, you pray to God, and that I have a great connection um, with God, right? Um, and but also, so I have a spiritual side of learning, but I'm human. We are all human, right? So I have other teachers, other guides that come up on my news feed or my YouTube feed or whatever. But there's a guy that says when you get stuck in a position, I don't think it. First of all, like, yeah, we look back and say, man, that if I would have made that choice, I probably would have been better. But like you're saying, it was not the right choice at the time because I couldn't do it for my family, right? But like, there's nothing wrong with that. It's the path that you've taken, and um, we have to embrace it. We have to be, yeah, I mean, yes, would have, could have, but it is what it is right now. So
You have
this guy that I follow is like, okay, whenever you're in a tough decision, like you're trying to choose between two, do this. Flip the coin, right? Okay. Heads, I'm gonna go to the right. Tails, I'm gonna go to the left, right? You flip the coin, and if it's heads and you're like right, and you're like, but I wanted to go left anyway, and you go left. But that's the beauty of it. Like, you don't have to do that because
Mhm.
you really deep inside wanted to go left. You just figured it out. That's the way you figured it out. Let me flip for it, right? And then it flipped this way. We're like, no, I really wanted to go left. So you know what? I'm gonna go left.
Yeah, it's interesting because when you look back at it, right, and when you find yourself compelled to talk about it, right, because there's someone you're talking to, or something that you're thinking, you have to reflect on where you are. You didn't do that thing you wanted to, but you're here for a reason. Where
Exactly.
would you be had you made that decision? And
Hmm.
so if you're good and happy with where you are, then that was the cost of that, right?
Yep.
Cause and effect. That was
Yep.
that's what happened as a result of not having made that decision. No regrets. You move forward, right? So
Exactly.
I have a lot of that in my life, that puts you where you are today. I went into the Marine Corps because I had Jerry. When Jerry was conceived and the day he was born, I had 17 hours there with his mother, uh, delivering. I felt like I delivered because my throat was sore, my body ached, I was
Don't let her,
exhausted.
don't
I
let
can
her ever hear you say that. You felt like you
I
delivered.
cannot think of what she went through, but I tell you, I was exhausted. So I went home and I went in the bathroom. I looked in the mirror and I says, dude, you do not exist from this day forward.
Wow.
You
Yeah.
have a bigger focus in your life. And I took that stand. But my fears and my worries was that I was afraid that I would not be able to provide for my
Mhm.
for my son.
Yeah.
And now that that pounded me
Mm-hmm.
in a way. That was a transformation, Jay. I tell you, I went through many.
Mm-hmm.
That was one that I needed to understand how good I needed to be at what I did to provide for my family.
Okay.
And I became an overnight sensation in my work because there's no way, no one's going to fire me. I'm not going to underperform.
Yeah.
And his existence brought about me this level of importance in the things that I did because it would affect him in many different ways. So, when the company was filing Chapter 11, I'm like, what am I going to do? The company goes bankrupt. This is all I've done since I turned, 16, and I enjoyed it and I liked it. And so I was walking downtown Hartford one day, and I had some friends that had gone in the military out of high school, and they were doing incredibly well. So I'm watching the recruiters, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marine recruiters were all walking together. There was some service that they were going to, and I stopped, and they were all wearing their blues, right? And but the Marine Corps blues stood out, and the few, the proud, all of the slogans that are associated with Marines. I says, I want to look like the best, and I want to be the best. So I stopped and I just talked to them.
Yeah.
4 weeks later, I was in the Marine Corps.
Nice.
That's how quickly it happened. But what I tell you, what I went through boot camp in my transformation, Jerry came into the picture again.
Mm-hmm.
Because I wasn't doing this for me, man. I'm doing this for my boy, right?
Yeah.
And Peter was on his way. He wasn't here yet, not quite yet. And so my motivation, my reaching deep to accomplish what I needed to accomplish was my mental thought of being the provider for my kids and being, providing them with something that they would be proud of in the future. And it worked out for me.
Yeah.
But my latest transformation came, just a couple of years ago.
Okay. Yeah. I wanted to talk about that. What you wanted to talk about that? Let's...
Yeah. So, I started with Staples. I told you the story about store to store and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
And you understand how important my family is to me. My family is always number one. But I also knew that number two took care of number one. So I had to have a very intense interest and focus on my business to continue to do well and advance because it took care of number two.
Yeah. Yeah.
So a lot of people would say, you're so committed to your work. What about your family? My work takes care of my family. And I will never forget that. They are my number one, but I have to provide for my family. And it sounds kind of backwards a little bit, but I raised 9 kids, man.
Yeah.
So
you got to fit that. I remember times that I'm not to cut you off, but I remember when you reached 5, you were like, oh, Uncle Jerry got a basketball
basketball squad.
And I'm like, all right, number 6. Okay, now everybody's talking. He might have a baseball team, and look at that. You do have a starting 9. Anyway.
Yeah, that's great. But anyways, as I worked a lot, I made a lot of business trips. I was away from the family a lot, and a lot of it was for all the right reasons. I came to New York, and I was working hard. At the time, I had been separated, and the company had asked me to come to New York several times, and I didn't want any part of New York. New England, yes. Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Maine. I worked in all of those states for Staples, but I didn't want to come to New York. However, there was a situation in the New York Albany market area with stores really looking run down, and the regional vice president asked me if I would consider coming out here to help to mentor, to help fix the stores and things like that. And I says, yeah, for those reasons I would go, and my team at the time were prepared. They were all enrolled. We have backfills for everybody already in succession. So, they could do it without me. And I came to New York, and I went to Latham, New York, the Staples there. I walked in and the store was imploded. And I says, boy, this is going to be a challenge. So the company put me up Monday through Friday in a hotel. And then I went back to New Hampshire on the weekends. And I really enjoyed working in that area. I drove around, got to know the area, better. And as things continued to progress for me, and the situation not getting any better, I'm used to just going in the store in 3 months, I'm out because it's fixed. Well, it wasn't going to be fixed in a year. So, the conversation came up about potentially moving people, general managers from other areas of the country into New York. I says, well, what about me? I would consider it. And they looked at me, HR and my regional vice president, are you really interested? I says, yeah, I think my store can sustain and we can promote everybody one step up and it's like still being there. And what happened was I did, but now I needed to be successful. I needed to fix that store because I committed to it, full time and permanent. And I ran myself. I'm one of those individuals that if it's not right, I don't go home. I have many 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. days. I have many 8-day weeks.
Wow.
And it caught up to me. I on a very tired Friday afternoon, I went into my back room, and we have this machine. It's called a baler, where we crush the cardboard and recycle it.
Yep.
And I dropped my pen, and I went to pick up my pen. And when I went to get up, I lost my balance and moved forward, and I hit the hinge on that machine, and I hit the top of my head severely. When I grabbed my head, and I'm almost tears coming out of my eye. I go into my office. I put my head on the counter, holding my head up. And when I came home, I asked him to kind of look. I felt that I banged my head a little bit here, and she goes, "Oh, there's a bump there, but there's no cut." To make a long story short, 10 days to the day, I had an episode where I lost my speech in a conversation at the store.
Holy God.
And my arms were numb, and I turned pale. I was fortunate that my associate I was talking to was an EMT, and he goes, "Jerry, you don't look right. This is not right. We got to take you to the emergency room." And I said, "No, I'm coming out of it." I never experienced anything like that in my life, and the inability to say what I wanted to say, just nothing came out when I attempted to talk.
So you knew what you wanted to say. You were trying to, and you're like it was not.
It wasn't coming. Yeah, it wasn't coming out of my mouth.
Like aware that
Yeah. Oh yeah, I was aware.
Oh wow.
And then I was aware about my feeling in my arms. They felt, frozen.
Mm-hmm.
And so I agreed. So they had somebody drive me to the emergency room. And I'm glad that I agreed, because the girl that drove me to the emergency room, I gave her my wallet because I couldn't communicate my ID and all that good stuff. So I sent Kim a text, once I was in the room being examined, that don't freak out, but I'm in the emergency room. And she was grocery shopping, and she really rushed through and came to the hospital. By the time she was there, they were prepping me to go into surgery.
Wow.
So as they're sitting there asking me questions, did you fall? Did you hit your head? I said, no. So luckily Kim walked in. She goes, yes. 2 weeks ago, you came home, asked me to look at a bump on your head. And I says, oh, that's right. It came back to me. So they took x-rays. I had blood clots in my brain and they were blocking some of the functions. So they went in and they stuck what they call the surgery was bird holes to help the drain. So they put like straws into your brain
Right.
to
So
help it.
did they have to go through the skull?
Yeah.
Ooh. Wait, so in those 10 days, were there like any signs that like maybe small signs that were like, well, like I'm trying to do something that like it wasn't
Yeah.
your normal routine and was not working for you? Was there any signs like that?
Yeah. So, hindsight, right?
Yeah.
I go back, I had a headache, I had discomfort. I don't recall the speech problem, but I can go back and think, but you write it off as being tired,
Yeah.
because I was working a lot of hours and so on. But when they did the first surgery, it did not work. So they had to do 2 weeks later, I had to go back in and they had to go in deep. But so I have a scar that goes from my forehead here all the way behind my ear. It's like a hook.
Wow.
And they had to go down, they had to cut my temple,
Okay.
which, to get to where they needed to get to. And that's what caused further speech problems.
So in trying to fix it, it made it worse.
Right. But it was the thing they had to do.
Okay. It was that we have to take that step first.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Understanding.
When they first,
Go ahead.
when they do the first one with the bird holes, did they know like, okay, let me try this first, but we might have to do a bigger surgery?
Yeah, that's always an option because they knew exactly what they needed to do
Okay.
in the event that failed. So it was prep and go, when it happened again.
Mm-hmm.
But it was scary. It was scary to say the least. The transformation was understanding that I never existed before that. I told you what I said when Jerry was born.
Yeah.
I looked in the mirror and I lived that. I lived through the sacrifices that I had to go through to provide for my family.
Mm-hmm.
And the things that I was doing professionally were for my family. So I never found fault in me going full force for my family. And that, what it told me was that I need to slow down. And if I can make it through this, I need to go back and realize how important I am, more so than the provider, but the existence in my family's life, the existence for me, my mother, my siblings, my family as a whole. And I had a lot of time to meditate on that.
Mm.
So the doctors were telling me, this is August. They're telling me you lucky to go back to work by May next year. And I says, oh, that's a long time. And so I felt helpless. I felt worthless. I had all the emotions against me. So that level of confidence that I lived with was tarnished, crushed, and I felt myself going into depression. Now, I felt it, knowing people that have been depressed and diagnosed with depression. I felt those symptoms. I felt like I found myself in tears.
Mm-hmm.
I grabbed my guitar and I started playing. I couldn't play. I started singing and I couldn't remember the verse, the lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
Those things all broke me down. Or my voice isn't on time, but my hands weren't moving to the chords. So there's a lot of things that were working against me.
Yeah.
And it hit me hard. This is all the things that I was good at. I'm no longer
That.
even there,
Yeah.
And so I woke up one day and I says, no, this is not me. I'm not going to do this. 8 weeks after my second surgery, I was back to work. When I signed out of the rehabilitation hospital, um, the surgeon that ran the hospital,
Yeah.
he sits in front of me. He says, Jerry, have you ever written a book? And I said, no. He goes, I would consider writing a book because you are a miracle. There is no way you come out of what you went through this quick, this fast, this effective.
Yeah.
And, I still, and you could probably hear because you knew me before my accident, I still have some speech, lapses when I'm tired, especially. But everything about me is back. I got it all back, and I put it all in God's hands.
Yes.
And it's just you got to help me through this one because I can't fight through this one by myself. I still get a lot emotional about it.
Yeah.
I've changed my ways in the way I talk to people, my accountability of people. Everything has changed. I'm not that hardcore individual anymore because I don't need to be.
Yeah.
I don't need to be because although I've been successful and effective,
Yeah.
you can still be successful and effective, not being so hardcore.
So hardcore. Why were you hardcore? Why were you so, like, when you say you speak to people the way you did?
Yeah.
Why would you do that? Why?
Yeah, because I success, failure, it wasn't an option for me ever. I succeeded at everything that I've ever done. Never failed. Tried out for the high school baseball team. As a freshman, I was the senior, the varsity third baseman. Failing was not an option for me. Everything that I've ever, Marine Corps, failing was not an option. I survived, I made it because focusing on the right reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing has always been the thing. I wasn't hard like a nasty. I wasn't a tyrant.
Yeah.
My accountability was high level.
Yeah.
You can do better and I'm not going to let you fail. If you give up on yourself, then I'm going to give up on you. I was very hard with that. You're 10 minutes late. Why are you 10 minutes late?
Yeah.
If you're on time in my business, you're already late.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I have that discipline that I carry with me. And a lot of that came from the Marine Corps. But understanding that the influence you have, your actions have a reaction.
Yeah.
When they're not good. They have a reaction when they're great also. But, if you're late, that impacts so many other people.
Yes.
And you don't realize that. So me, it was opening people's eyes to understand that you got to be to work on time. You can't call out sick. You're sick, you got to call out, but give me the time and the effort. And that I changed all of that. I've gotten to value my life more. Not my life for others more, but my life for me more.
Which is translating
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
others naturally. So I want to, because there's a few layers here. So, I mean, what I see is like you were hard on you. First of all, you were hard on yourself because you were not going to fail. You have people depending on you. It's not, I'm doing this because I have to. Where you develop a sense of what you need to do, your work values, your work ethics, where like you hold yourself to that and you're expecting others to, like, you're portraying that. Yeah, like, no, listen, man, if I could do it, you could do it. You're on time, you're late, right? So that's what's coming out of you is what you're saying, where now that you've kind of learned to let go and not be so hard on yourself, it's kind of like now everyone gets it. Like, okay, I'm not hard on myself. I'm not hard on everyone else either. Is what I'm trying to say. Is it translating that way?
Yeah, and if I'm working until 5:00, 5:01, I'm in my car.
Yeah.
No matter what's going on. If I'm off tomorrow, I still have there's a lot of fluctuations in retail, so you have to make adjustments and adapt to changes rather quickly. But my time is my time, and I
Yeah.
don't give it up for anybody. And
Yeah. And
that's the way it's been since this transformation has been the most positive one for me,
wow.
because I never thought about me,
Yeah.
and that accident opened my eyes about me.
Yeah.
But more importantly, if I'm absent, what impact, what effect is that going to have on others?
Hmm.
And I truly believe that I'm at the point in my life, in my age, that I need to pay attention to me, and for me, not for others. But as a result, others are beneficiaries of that.
Yes. Yes. It's como it's not a, it's a paradox. Is that
Mhm.
what it's called? Where it's like, yeah, less is more, right? This is so because you lived your life because you had to support your family without what my I'm supporting my family I love so much that I'm doing this for you, where you had to be great at your job in order there goes the light. um, um, in order for you to provide, you had to be the best person or the best at what you do in order to do that. That's how you're thinking about it, where there was no room for you in this, where now you found that all right, without me, I mean, I can't work if I'm not capable of working. I can't work, which means I can't provide to my family. But in like finding that, man, I really do have to take care of myself. Everything kind of still works out, is what I'm
Mhm.
hearing.
Right.
All right. I
Yeah, don't
mean,
be so hardcore, because if you take care of you through it all, that takes care of everything
self.
that you represent, that you are in charge of, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that, and a lot of people in my business have noticed the difference. A lot of people that I've developed and promoted have noticed you've changed. But it's for me, it's been for the good. And I Kim has been very, very helpful in helping me understand a lot of that,
Yeah.
and to you know, look at it from what I can control, as opposed to focusing on things that I cannot control.
Yeah.
And what can you control in this scenario? What can you control in this?
Mm,
In a lot of cases, I'm a very emotional person. I wear my emotions on my sleeve
yeah.
and my heart on my sleeve, and sometimes I may not show
Yeah.
the reaction of something, but
Hmm.
it eats me inside, and that's not healthy,
No.
because you have to be able to talk it out. One, two, did I have to take it personal?
Yeah.
I
And
have control over that.
yeah. And those are big because I'm learning this now, right? And I do that. I mean, it stems from my family. Like I do take things personal. I don't take as many things as I did before personal, but it happens every once in a while where learning to. I think it learns to. It's learning to let go of that, man. That wasn't even personal, right?
Yeah.
Because when you hold that in, when you say that, it's like, man. And I think you're cancer too, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm a cancer, and it's like, man, I'm an emotional creature, bro. I
Yeah.
am emotional, but that's what it is. It's important to talk about these things, and it's important I noticed for me when it feels so much better, where like, as opposed to, yeah, I took that personal. And if somebody says, yo, you took that personal, and you're like, nah, I ain't take that personal. Like,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
you're still taking it personal,
You
right?
did.
Where as opposed, and I'm still feeling like crap, because like now I did take it personal, and now you calling me out on it, and no, man.
Mhm.
So, and it just makes it worse and worse.
Yeah.
Where when you accept it and you acknowledge it, like, yeah, man, I did take them, and that allows for you, like, man, you know what? I took that personal. I
Mhm.
know I was in my feelings, but it wasn't all that. You know, it
Yeah.
was, you know, it is what it is. But for you to accept that, that is it's yeah, it's a part of what you who you are and what you did. It
Yeah.
just takes that weight off you, like, okay,
Yeah.
now I can move
So
forward.
look at every scenario, right?
Mhm.
When somebody treats you wrong, right? What's the only thing you can control? Is how
Your
you took it.
how you react, yeah, how you take
Yeah.
it, how you react, yeah.
So you can't control the jerk.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
The person's going to be a jerk no matter what.
Yeah.
But you can control how you receive what's coming out of their
Mhm.
jerk, I guess.
Yeah.
And Kim's been very instrumental in you know, coaching me through that.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
Yeah.
even with my kids.
Yeah.
You know, she's made a lot of sense in the way she kind of views things, you know. And you know, I go so long without hearing from somebody, and I start thinking that I did something wrong. What did I say to distant? And you didn't do anything wrong. Why
No.
don't you reach out?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and then I realized I'm the only one reaching out. Nobody else is. Well, that's my responsibility, is to reach out.
Mhm.
You
So now
know,
you're go ahead.
so eventually one day, you know, everybody will open up their eyes. You know, I've been distanced from dad, but he's always reached out to me. He never used, you know, he never used that against me for not reaching out to me. And you know, she makes a lot of sense with that. So I have a life coach, you know,
Yeah. I'm
with
blessing
me
you.
that, yeah, because it is what it is. You know, we each have our opinions.
Yeah.
When we combine our forces to make sense of each other's opinion, I think it's priceless, and we can talk through anything.
Anything.
You know, we don't argue. We don't. We put it all on the table and we discuss it. This is how I felt, and this is why I felt that
Exactly.
way.
Yeah.
And we can both say our side and genuinely apologize.
Yeah.
That's not what I meant. That's not how I meant to make you feel.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe the choice of words were wrong. I'll try harder,
Yeah.
work harder, or better choice of words,
Mm-hmm.
and we can get through it. And we, with a smile, we end up every one of our what I call contradicting conversations, or things that ruffle the other's feathers.
Yeah.
And and those things are all important, because as I'm learning that late in my life, I just wish I had it all my life,
Yeah.
because my relationships with everybody would be different. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
there is no, there isn't anything that I can't talk to my siblings about.
Mm.
And if somebody made me feel awkward or wrong, I know that I can take my sibling to the side and say, listen, what you said, I didn't take right. I
Mm-hmm.
give them an opportunity to clear the air.
Yeah.
But once the conversation is had, whether I like what I heard or not, we move on.
It's
There's still
yeah.
love existing there.
You
But it
let
had to
go.
be said, because it eats you inside, and it ruins your relationships with the people you love the
Yeah.
most.
Yeah.
You know?
You're absolutely right. And that's so, and when you finally come to that realization, it's like, man, I wish I knew this for forever, right? And then you also wish for others to, like, for them to come to that realization too. That because it's such a feeling where you can put it out and let it go finally, because you've been holding on to that, you've been holding on to it, and carrying it with you and carrying it with you, and it's like, man, it's heavy as hell, yo, because
Gonna explode out of you eventually.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
You can't control the debris, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Where we learn to express it and let it go, and you're so right, because I'm learning that too with my relationship with my wife, and relationships in general, where you have to be honest with yourself, where if it's something that's eating you up, you have to kind of, all right, let me talk about this, because it's not I need to let this go, I got to put it out there, where then it's you you express how you felt about it, where that person saw it a whole different way. Like it's just the perspectives were different, right? And valid from both sides, right?
Right.
Like, oh shit, I didn't even look at it that way.
Right.
But now I have a better understanding. And at the same time, I think we have as humans, we are naturally we are loving and forgiving. Like we don't want to be upset at people. We don't want to not love where things are cleared up. It's like, all right, man, like let's keep it moving. Like we went through this and it was a misunderstanding, or it was something real. Like, shit, man, I did disrespect you. I didn't mean to. Like, I really didn't mean to do that. But like you wouldn't know any of that if you just kept carrying it on and not opened up about it. Where
Absolutely.
yeah, where it's so that when they say communication is so important, and people go through life saying things like this, but if you know, it's really like
It's
communicate
true.
yeah, because
It's not just a saying.
no, it's not. It's like so, oh my God, I felt so good. Okay. In
Yeah.
your relationship, and your relationships always get better after that. It's like,
Stronger. Yep.
man, it's stronger. It's like
Yeah.
everything we've been through, and each time that you work through something out with somebody, it just makes that relationship so much stronger. Like, look, like nobody can take away what we've been through it, and how we communicate and how our relationship is. But it starts from being open to or realizing it, first of all, because you have to, when you say that you've learned to um not be so going so hard on yourself, or so hard on other, or take things personal. First you have to accept that, and say, yeah, I did take that personal, because like I said, like, no,
Yeah.
I'm taking that personal. What you mean? But when you
That's showing.
exactly, like, clearly, okay, you're not taking it personal, right? But when you first accept it and be like, you know what, yeah, that's the first step. Like, yeah, it is, I took that personally,
Yeah.
and because you're in control of how you take things, how you react to things, and you're never going to fix it or get through it if you deny that you are, or you did. You got to accept it. Like, yeah, I took that personal. Listen, this is what happened. What I felt this way because of this and that, and it's valid. Like, everybody has their own ways of taking things, right? Because some people take things away where you're like, man, why'd you take it that way? Like, I didn't. That's not what I meant, right? But
Mhm.
everybody has their own perspective on things. Where if we were to communicate and listen to each other, you get you peel off those layers, or whatever it is, where you find, like, man, we're more alike than we thought, right?
Mhm.
And man, I love you for it, and
Yeah.
and I just think it's a beautiful thing. um but I want to go back to the transformation, right? So, and this is your most important transformation, is what you're saying. What do you think allowed you, or what did you think allowed you to transform? Was it that you controlled it going in, or was it because of you letting it go and say, listen, God, you take this, it's too much for me right now, help me through this?
Yeah. I think you hit it on the nose, right? So when you're down and out, it's probably the best time that you can engage God, right? And it's probably more common when you're down and out. And I did, reached out. I said, not so much that I can't do this alone. It's more like I'm not gonna make it without you.
Yeah.
It's not that I can't do it alone unless I have you here with me, pushing me forward, guiding me, protecting me. This is not going to work. But I didn't turn to God because I was distanced from God, because I've been always close to God in many different ways. You slip and slide like everything else, but I always have the faith within me. And I looked up and I says, I need to get myself out of this. This is not my road. So because I was able to do that, and I put it in his hands.
Exactly.
You know, I put it, I says, you know, there's a saying, there's a song, take the wheel.
Yep.
Yeah, it's exactly what I allowed. This is what I'm going to do. I felt that the decisions that I made were all guided by his hands. I have this great understanding that when the thought comes to your mind, that's God talking to you.
Yes,
And
exactly.
you have to interpret it that way.
Yeah.
You're not going to hear a voice in your ear. You're not going to hear a knock on your door. It's going to be the thought, the idea comes to your mind, and you got to kind of study that. Why am I thinking this? And so I did a lot of that. And because I spent a lot of time alone, feeling sorry for myself, I was able to kind of hear it and move with it. But yeah, Kim and I go to church, and Life Church. You can find it online.
Yeah.
Very, very powerful. And I walk out of there in tears.
Yeah. That's
Still
that's
today.
great.
Yeah, and one of the messages that I heard, one day I'm sitting there bawling with the message, and it says, it's okay to cry.
Yeah.
That's the Holy Spirit cleansing your soul. And that made me even worse. But that part of me, every day, every night, every morning, Kim and I, we at dinner, every day, my biggest fear is that I let that enemy take the best of me. So I pray every day for the shield to protect me and to not let anything penetrate. Because when I feel a reaction to somebody, I deal with a lot of people at work.
Yeah.
And I'm in retail. To the world, we're maggots. No, to the world, we're like the lowest in the food chain. And so I know people come at me in very different ways, and I get a lot of compliments. I don't do it alone. This is where I need God the most.
Yeah. Because
I feel that the closer I get to Him, the more I'm challenged by the enemy. I'm attacked, and I feel it more at work than anywhere else. And I have a thought, somebody yelling and shouting at me. I'm okay with standing in there listening. When they stop, I just say something very simple. Listen, I came out to help you, but your actions towards me are keeping me from moving forward. So if we could treat each other with respect, like two adults and professionals, I'm going to help you through this. And that's what I get out of my focus on not letting the enemy take the best of me. Yeah. Is the message that I deliver in those moments are positive. And those that are standing by listening always take the time to say, oh my God, I can't believe you took that from that guy. And your response was so positive. And you calmed the situation down. You protected your associate. And that was priceless. I have people after people stop me at work. And these are angels that are coming to me.
Yeah.
To tell me that you're doing something right here. And I get it. I get it several times a week. And I grin. And because I grin, it says, you're smiling. I says, I know, I understand all the messages that are coming from him.
Yeah.
And so, but in the morning, I put all you guys, my entire family in his hands. At night, I do the same. I don't pray only when I'm down and out. I pray when I'm really happy. I'm so grateful for that moment that I feel so great. And I think that's equally important. In some cases, probably more important. And so I've transformed that way in many different ways. But you also have to understand that the people in your life have to have some similarities in their faith to yours. Otherwise, you're constantly battling, and
Yeah.
battling always is not, it's not the way to live in the faith,
Hmm.
because you feel like it feels like it's harder all the time
Yeah.
when it should be easier, because those around you share the same faith, you know, positivities that go with it, and the comments and conversations surrounding that to be all in that same fashion.
Yeah. That's a great way of explaining it and looking at it. First of all, the power of prayer is so huge, and that's another thing that people say that no, that it really is. What I'm saying is like 10 times more if you really feel it, take the time to understand it. Like the power of prayer is huge. Second of all, when you do, and the way that I see it, when you're vibrating at that level where when you're the closer you get to God, right, you're more like on, and it's not about a higher level or a lower level, like you're not on my level, and it's just
Yeah.
different levels. That when you're in a relationship, and the closer you get to God, and you find yourself with people that kind of are in the same boat, like, okay, we're vibrating at that level, like, you understand, we're sharing the same faith, right, where it's natural that you're not like this if we're what I'm trying to say is, like, if we're not if our faith is not on the same level, then yeah, it doesn't, you don't resonate with it. You really don't want to even go there, right? But it's okay. It is okay, because some of those people, it's just not their time yet. They're not there yet, right? Um, but it's natural to, like, all right, I mean, like, listen, I'm not even gonna go there. I don't feel like going over there, because that's
Yeah.
not where your level is. That's not where you're at.
Mhm.
Where I prefer to be in this environment where I am with people that are on my site on the same level. But there's nothing wrong with it. It's not a negative thing. Like, there's just, I can't rock with those people, or I'd rather be over here, because I mean, at the same time, like you said, they're gonna be in your life regardless.
Right.
Those battles are there for a reason too, right? And
Hmm.
maybe it has nothing to do with you. Maybe they're on a path that they actually want to be, where you're like, they feel what you're like, I want to be like that guy. So God has placed them in your life, in your environment, for their reasons, right? And for us to stay like, right, yeah, hey, how you doing, whatever, all right, well, I'm gonna come over here. um it's not, I mean, so what I'm trying to say is that you're always going to be on the battlefield, right, of that,
Yeah.
and it's going
Hmm.
to show up. And a lot of times you do learn from it because it was meant for you, right? Okay, you say you're this guy, let me see how you handle this situation, right?
Hmm.
Because, matter of fact, this person right here too needs this battle right here too, right?
Hmm.
Like, he needs it. Like, let me put you guys in the same room. Let me put you guys together and see how that happens. How that the reactions you get. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that I understand that, you share this, you have your faith, you share with who you share with, and you feel great in that. But you're always going to have those battlefield moments where the test is for you, or the test is just for this person. It's just like, let's not take anything personal, right? Let's
Hmm.
just go through it together.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, at the end of the day, you know, you go home, you leave it all behind. So the next podcast we share should be relationships.
All right, let's do it. I'm writing this down. Oh, relationships. Anyways, so I love you, Theo. I appreciate you. I'm honored to have you on the show. I think that what you shared today I feel like it was just super inspiring.
Thank
Um,
you.
and I also want to talk more about that miracle and you writing a book, because it is a miracle, bro. You know, they telling you like, yeah, you're not gonna get back for a year, and for you to go through have that relationship with God where you're like, listen, man, take the wheel, and
Mm.
how letting that go and letting go and letting God does create miracles. So I want to
Yeah,
talk more about that too.
you got it.
All right.
It was great. Take care. My regards to the family.
All right, Benicio.
God bless you.